It's been 4 years since I got my St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship. Time has really flown by. I'm going to tell you my 4-year honest review on having a St. Kitts passport and if you should get this citizenship, if you should get Caribbean citizenship in general, because I've used it to travel to many countries around the world. I've made hundreds of videos about citizenships and passports. Now, let's go through the pros and the cons of having a Caribbean citizenship. And from my personal experience, opening bank accounts, opening companies, opening exchange accounts, traveling through multiple countries, applying for residency in multiple countries, and also visas with my St. Kitts passport. Now, first off, you have pretty good visa-free access. Now, you can go to over 140 countries around the world. And although some countries, like in my experience, Brazil, didn't believe that St. Kitts and Nevis was a real country, even though geographically Brazil is closer to St. Kitts than something like Thailand is, for example. They should know that St. Kitts is a country. That particular border guard didn't know. They didn't believe me that it was a real country. They didn't believe me that I didn't need a visa to enter Brazil. And it was a whole mess at the airport until the manager came in, checked in the system, and then allowed me to enter Brazil without a visa. That's just going to happen sometimes. Where the border guard doesn't know that that's a real country, the particular person working that day doesn't know about the visa-free travel access of that passport, and they're going to give you a hard time. In other countries like Hungary, for example, I used to travel to Hungary around 2 years ago, they just didn't care. They put the passport in the scanner, they looked at me for a second, stamped the passport, gave it back to me, and I thought, okay, no questions? Okay, I'm just going to go. And that was it. So sometimes you're going to get questions, sometimes they're going to think that it's a fake passport, sometimes you're going to think that the country doesn't exist, and sometimes you're just going to travel like pretty much anybody else. Where the country looks at, if you have visa-free access, they stamp your passport and they let you go because they don't care. A lot of countries around the world just don't care. Singapore, for example, in my experience, I've used multiple passports to enter Singapore. They tend to not care. They ask you 1 or 2 questions. They see if you need a visa or not. They check if you're a criminal or you're a fugitive or anything. And if you're not, they stamp you and they let you go. And you're fine. So it depends really on the specific country or on the specific border guard even. Now, when it comes to opening bank accounts, because that's a huge reason why a lot of people get St. Kitts passports, they want to have a plan B, they want to have privacy. This really provides a lot of privacy. Now, I'm not saying evade taxes illegally, report your taxes, pay your taxes, do what you need to do. But if you want an extra level of privacy, if you want to open bank accounts under a new nationality, just to be protected from a lawsuit, just so a specific person doesn't know that you have that bank account in another country, you can definitely do that. I went to Georgia, for example, and I went to Turkey, and in both countries, I opened bank accounts with my St. Kitts passport. Georgia is getting a little bit harder. Sometimes they reject St. Kitts and other Caribbean passports. That's what people have told me over the last couple of months because I opened it a couple of years ago, and it was very easy. I gave it to the lady looked at the passport, and she said, "Oh, your passport is really pretty. It has fishes everywhere and it looks so tropical." I thought that was super cute. Like the banker, she was telling me that my passport was cute, and overall opening my bank account, it was a great experience. It took like an hour to get a bank account. I got my debit card a couple of days later, and that was it. No problems at all. And then I started using that bank account over the next months. In a lot of countries, it's going to be like that. You just give them your passport, or if you have a residency permit, for example, we have clients that have Caribbean passports and then they have a UAE golden visa or UAE residency permit. To open a bank account in UAE, pretty straightforward process. As long as you're a resident, it's going to be an easy process. They don't care if you have a St. Kitts passport or a US passport. Well, if you have a US one, it's going to be worse. But a St. Kitts versus a Canadian, for example, they don't care. You're a resident of Dubai, great, you're going to get your bank account. In some countries, it's a problem. Specifically countries, for example, in the European Union. I've tried to open bank accounts with my St. Kitts passport and they said, "Oh, this is on the list of tax havens or blacklisted jurisdictions. We're not gonna open your account." And even though I don't have a bank account there, I don't have a business there, my money doesn't come from there, I wasn't born there, they don't care. That is your nationality. That is your passport country. Therefore, they're not gonna open that account. So in some banks, it's gonna be an issue. And also for opening crypto exchange accounts or other Forex exchange accounts, anything like that, it could be extremely helpful because as a US citizen, if you want to open up an international Binance account, you can't do it if you have residency or a residency card in another country. For example, a US citizen with a UAE residency permit and an Emirates ID cannot open an international Binance account because their nationality and their passport is USA. Versus if that same US citizen gets a St. Kitts passport, even though it's the exact same person and they're still a US citizen, they could get a Binance account because they have a different nationality. They would still need to report and pay taxes back to the IRS, but they can get access to that exchange account that they wouldn't as a US citizen. Having a St. Kitts passport has provided me privacy, opening bank accounts, opening companies abroad, opening exchange accounts, and overall better privacy, better access, less hassle in a lot of places. And if you want to get a second citizenship, I always recommend you to book a one-on-one call with me and the Wealthy Expat team. We can sit down on the call. It is complimentary. You're a millionaire or a multimillionaire, so you probably don't care about spending some money to get on a call. But what we want is to sit down with you and see which program fits you the best and to give you advice directly on the call. No BS, no filler, tell you, okay, based on your profile, based on your business, based on your investments, this is what works best for you. We recommend this country. They have this law where you could get citizenship in this particular time frame. We've helped many people all over the world acquire second citizenships in countries they never thought possible. And I myself have acquired 4, and I'm working on my 5th citizenship now. So go ahead and click the link in the description, book a call, and I will see you there. Also, I've heard from clients of mine that have gotten golden visas in Europe through their St. Kitts or through their Dominica or through their St. Lucia passports that they really don't have any problems getting golden visas, getting long-term residency permits. Although if I want to get a long-term residency permit or some sort of 10-year visa or anything like that, I use my other citizenships just because they're more well-known countries. Like Serbia is going to be way more well-known than St. Kitts, and the process maybe is just psychologically, but for me, it's just going to be easier and faster as a Serbian than it's going to be as a St. Kitts citizen. But from my clients and from my friends that have St. Kitts and Caribbean passports, I've heard that it's pretty straightforward. They don't really care. As long as you meet the requirements, you can get access to that country. You can get that long-term golden visa. If you want to get better visa-free travel, you want to get more privacy, you want to get better access to exchange accounts or bank accounts, overall, you want to have a perfect plan B, Caribbean citizenship is a great way to go. Now for the cons that we need to talk about, first of all, is that it's not a country or a union of countries because you have access to other Caribbean countries. You're probably not going to live in any of these countries. And that's the issue I have with Caribbean passports, that you're really just paying for the passport. You're really just paying for the citizenship, and that's all. You're not paying for a potential plan B country that you can live in, although, I mean, technically, I could go to St. Kitts, I could go to Grenada, I could go to other Caribbean countries and live there. I'm probably not gonna do that. Versus if I had an Argentinian passport, I can go and actually live in Argentina or in other Mercosur countries. And that's where other citizenships that are harder to obtain, obviously not as straightforward, but you have better access to actually go live in one of these countries, to go pay taxes in one of these countries, to actually open companies and bank accounts in one of these countries, because you're probably not going to open a bank account or a company in St. Kitts and Nevis. You're really just paying to have the citizenship and the passport. Whereas with other countries, let's say you were to go to Mexico, have a child in Mexico, and then live 2 years in Mexico. Now you have a Mexican passport. You can actually build a life in Mexico. I wouldn't recommend opening a bank account in Mexico or opening a business or anything like that. You could open up a trust in Mexico if you want to buy real estate in Mexico. But in Mexico, you have this huge country that also has good relationships with other Latin American countries. For example, as a Mexican citizen, you could get easier residency in other Latin American countries. Versus with a St. Kitts passport, it doesn't give you any more privileges apart from just what this passport has. And if the passport loses access to, for example, the Schengen area, you don't really have any other paths to easier access to other citizenships or other residencies. It's just St. Kitts and the Caribbean. Versus with the Mexican, you can build a life there. You can open bank accounts there, although I don't recommend putting that much money there. You have better access to other Latin American countries. You have good relationships with Europe. You're most likely never going to lose access to the Schengen area or visa-free travel around the world. Most likely you're never going to lose that unless something crazy happens. You can also be protected diplomatically by that country. For example, Serbia and Turkey. Turkey has a citizenship by investment program. These countries diplomatically protect you. They send flights in danger situations and war situations. If I'm in a war situation and I'm looking to, okay, which country can help me or could help me in any horrible situation that I'm in, and they could diplomatically help me as a citizen of that country, St. Kitts and Nevis is probably not going to help me. I'm on my own, which at the same time you could say is good because I don't want to depend on any country and then I don't want to owe anything to any country. So I'd rather be on my own and prepare myself with a St. Kitts passport than be under, let's say, Turkish diplomatic help and have to depend on Turkey. But in my opinion, if you're in a crazy situation or in a high danger situation, I'd much rather be a citizen of Turkey that I know they're going to help me, they're going to take me out, and they're going to take me to Turkey, and they're going to protect me in that situation, than I would be a citizen of the Caribbean. So it provides an extra layer of protection and of diplomatic help no matter where you go, because you can always be arrested somewhere around the world, you can always be in a war situation, you can always be in some trouble that you never thought you would find yourself in, and then you need help from the country where you are a citizen. With other passports that don't have these citizenship by investment programs, you're actually building a life in that country, and you could potentially even live there long term. Your children could even live there long term. You can have a company there, a trust there, properties there, and actually build a full life. Whereas with the Caribbean, you're just strictly going for the passport and the citizenship. That is really my biggest problem with it. If you want to get a second citizenship and a second passport that is not one of the Caribbean countries, you want to get something even better, there are programs around the world specifically for ultra high net worth individuals just like you, and you can check them out right here. Passport and citizenship programs available for the ultra rich in many countries that you never even thought possible. You definitely want to check out this video right here.